Hi, everyone. I'm Alena with Celebrate Every Step. And I know that most of you know me, but I have my LSW. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, psychic medium, and spiritual guide. And my ultimate passion in life is just helping people feel and function their very best, whether that's on the mental and emotional side or the physical and practical side. And I am so excited to have Bronwyn here, and she has her coaching and healing business. And my goodness, her list of accomplishments and titles is very impressive. So I'll share some of that with you, and then we will dive into a few of those. And so she offers health and soul centered coaching, hypnotherapy, Kundalini awakening yoga, Reiki, shamanic healing, Akashic records, and also does the Young Living essential oils. And she has recently written two books. She also does animal training. And so, yeah, just an ongoing list of amazing things. And you can read all of that in the bio that will be posted with this. And she is going to be part of the Expo on June 24th in Punxsutawney. So I am so excited to have her there because, as you heard, she's a fellow hypnotherapist along with me.
Mhm.
So we share that love of working with the brain and optimizing the brain. I often say our brains can be our best friends or our worst enemies. And so I want people more in that best friend camp. And so I know she is also passionate about that. So welcome. I'm so glad to have you today.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. So let's dive in. The other thing I wanted to mention too is I have been using Young Living essential oils for probably 17, if not 18 or so years now. And so I like to joke that I've been using oils since before it was the cool thing to do. Back when people thought it was, like, not that they still don't, but, some kind of snake oil salesman kind of a thing.
You're way ahead of the curve.
Yes, yes. So I was so excited when I saw that on your list as well, because yeah, I've been a lover of those oils for many, many years and still use them currently almost every day. So if not every single day, I love it.
And you know what? I got into it because one of my shamanic teachers does it.
Mm,
And my past German Shepherd, um, he had cancer. And she's like, hey, why don't you, it was skin cancer. She's like,
mm,
why don't you rub this on so it doesn't get any bigger? So I did. And I mean, eventually he did have it removed. But
mm-hmm.
that's how I started to get interested in it.
Yeah.
And, then it was like, oh, let's just have some lavender at night so we can sleep better.
Mm-hmm.
And then, years go by, and now I have another dog. And um, let me tell you about this dog.
Yes.
He is a challenge. In all of my years of dog training, I've actually never run into a dog like this.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
he is really reactive to everything. The
Mm.
sweetest boy in the world, but just so reactive. So, I was talking with the shamanic teacher, and she's like, have you used the oils? And I'm like, no.
Mm. Yeah.
So, lo and behold, even through his medication, he was like wild.
Mm.
So, as soon as I started to put the oils on him or diffuse a couple of the oils, calm. I can actually take him in the car now, and he's
Wow.
not banging against the window
Oh my
and
goodness.
losing his mind. So I'm like, hey, I call that a win.
Yes, absolutely. And just as the disclaimer, there are certain oils that are not good for dogs and cats. So just make
So
sure that you do your research on what is actually usable on the different animals too. But yeah, I know we just used my son woke up with a bellyache yesterday, and that was the first thing. I was like, get the Digize out and
mhm.
put that right onto your belly, and he was better for a while, and then um, a few hours later, it kind of worn off and put some more on and then was fine again. And so that's, yeah, we definitely have our go-tos. We the peppermint, the Digize, the lavender, frankincense I love,
Mhm.
and I've really been into the citrus, the orange, the lemon, the lime combo. And so it's
Ooh,
just fun
nice.
to bring in the oils for just that overall well-being. When I'm looking at health, I look at all areas, the physical, the practical, like the oils, the supplements, getting enough water, sleeping well, looking at the spiritual, at the creativity that we need to bring into our day. It all
Mhm.
matters. And so yeah, whatever I can do to enhance our health, I'm certainly going to implement. So I love that you have found their amazingness too.
Yeah, and also, just so people know, Young Living has veterinarians on staff.
Perfect.
So, they're going to tell you use these things, but don't go near this. I mean,
Yes.
um, one day
Yeah.
I made the mistake of of diffusing some of the citrus, and
Mm,
just one of my cats decided that he did not like it at all and
yeah.
vomiting.
Oh
So
no. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
no
So there
diffusing
are
of the citrus.
yeah, there are risks, so it's important to know those. So yeah. Awesome. So let's get into just all of your other amazing things that you have going on. Let's talk first about your books. Tell me about
Okay.
those, please.
All right. Well, I always knew that I had a book in me, but I didn't know what it was going to be. And I really thought that it was going to be about my German Shepherd
Mm,
first. But as I started to work on that, it's still too painful to talk
hmm.
about his passing. So I'm like, maybe this isn't the book.
Yeah.
So I dipped my toes in and I made a little blank notebook. And I'm like, oh, well, that was fun. And then I'm like, my mom loves to color. And I'm like, hey,
Mm,
mom, let me see your coloring books. And I'm like, what do you like to color? And so I started to create some different designs. And she's like, oh, hey, these are really good. And I'm like, you want to color any of them? And so I printed a couple of off for her. And she's like, hey, these are really nice. So I made a coloring book.
oh,
And I'm like,
neat.
coloring books are fantastic for stress. And I'm all about stress
Hmm.
reduction so that all of those stress symptoms don't turn into physical disease and ailments.
100%.
So I made a coloring book, and it's all of these really intricate flourishes and designs and this twist on Victorian design, like
Hmm.
William Morris kind of design. So that one was my first one. And following it right at its heels, I did a children's book.
Oh, wonderful.
So it's called Caldwell Crow and the Shimmering Nest. And it has all of these really beautiful themes about friendship and creativity and inclusion. And it's just such a heartwarming and feel good story. And I fell in love with that little crow.
Yeah. Oh, that is so beautiful. And I totally get that emotional piece. I have been working on a book for over 2 years now, and it started one way. And then when our son died, I decided to go in a completely, not completely different, but different direction.
Mm-hmm.
And so that has been probably the biggest obstacle and hurdle was being able to write a book about, because my book is about grief and loss and the blessings in each of the deaths that I've experienced. But holy crap, is it hard to go back into each of those deaths and then relive it, because I'm tapping into all of the senses to call back those memories, because I'm writing about my grandma that died in
Mm-hmm.
1996, and I'm writing about my college boyfriend that died in 2002 or 3. So that's a long time ago. But the minute I bring in my senses, I can be right back in those moments. And so, you know, it's hard to go into that and still be taking care of my kids, taking care of my animals, taking care of my clients and doing all the things that I need to do in just my normal day to day. And so, yeah, I totally honor that in you, that now it's not the time yet. And that's the neat thing about it, is that it will come when it's meant to and when you're ready to share that with the world. And it will be beautiful and healing for you, first and foremost, in the process. And then it will also help others. So, yeah, I'm glad that you honored that within yourself.
Well, I'm glad that you did that with yours as well, because
Hmm.
you found a completely different direction. You're like, no, this is what I need to be
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah. And man, it's very powerful. It has been very healing for me, but I know that it's going to transform other people's lives as well, because it's a completely different narrative around death and grief and what that journey can look like. So yeah, but it's um when you're writing about very vulnerable topics, it can be a little scary to put that out there into the world for judgment and criticism and
Hmm.
all of those pieces of it too. Yeah, but you have a heart-based, spirit-based business, and so when you build a business like that, it is personal, and so you're already familiar with that, but I love that you are bringing your creativity into the coloring book and into the children's book. And I 100% agree that coloring is an amazing stress reliever. I have a whole section in my cabinet that are my coloring books, my crayons, my markers, my pencils that the kids are not allowed to
Right.
touch. There was even a period of time when I had coloring parties. So other adults would come to my house, we'd have snacks and drinks and color. It was fantastic.
Oh, how
So,
fun.
yeah, it was fantastic. So much fun. And yeah, just such a good time. So,
Yeah, and
yeah.
it came not just from, seeing my mom color. It was something for me to do
Hmm.
to decrease my own stress
Yeah.
and to work with this creative flow that was coming through. Because I usually do theater, but this year I haven't found anything that goes, "Hey, you need to do this."
Yeah.
So I'm like, what else can I do?
Hmm. Yeah, that's on that creative side. And so, we were talking about before we got on sacredness and intention in your day to day, how you take care of yourself. And right there, you've mentioned two things where you're looking at the coloring for stress relief.
Mhm.
Actually, three, because we talked about the oils
Yeah.
and how that helps with stress relief. And, you're talking about the creativity in the theater too. And so that's just so amazing that you have recognized that within yourself of what do I need to do to feel and function my very best, and let me actually do it, because that's the other side. We have to actually do it too.
Right. Right. You have to make it a priority, I think,
Mhm.
and I think some people put it in that box of, well, I'll get to it when.
Mhm.
And for me, it's one of those non-negotiables.
Yeah,
Like every morning, you might see some cat ears pop up.
that's
So,
okay.
um, um, every morning I need to meditate. I need to
Mhm.
exercise. I need to walk the dogs.
Mhm.
If I don't do those things, I mean, some people need coffee. I don't drink coffee or any
Mhm.
caffeine. These are my things because if I don't do them, I don't function.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so important to recognize. I just did a class last night and we're talking about, because most of the people, oh, there might be cat ears that pop up on mine too.
All right.
One just jumped up behind me. Um, and she must have sensed your animal loving energy and came in. She doesn't normally come in. Um, we were talking about that because each of the women that were there were just like, I've been taking care of everybody else for so long. I don't know how to take care of myself. And so we really examined that and looking at, okay, yeah, what does that mean, delegating some things out? How do you take things off of your plate so that you do have the time and space for taking really good care of you? And then there's also conditioning. The one lady was like, yeah, but if I take care of myself, that's selfish. And I was like, what's wrong with being selfish? And so we just changed that word into prioritizing self-love, self-care, instead of it being selfish, which has such a negative connotation. Although I'm on a mission to take back that word and not have it such a negative connotation. But, there are true internal beliefs, um, that come from within us, but also beliefs that others have put onto us, whether it's religious or whether it's, the woman's place or, whatever
Oh,
it may be.
media. Hmm.
There's so much conditioning around taking care of ourselves and prioritizing ourselves. And, does that make me a bad mom, or does that make me a bad person if I take care of myself? And I'm here to say no. And I think you agree with that too.
Right. It's
Yeah.
that old adage of, the oxygen mask dropping down. You have to
Mm-hmm.
put yours on first. If you don't put yours on, then how are you going to care for anyone else?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think so many people pour from that empty cup for so long that they don't know any different. And, even just moving into, don't be pulling from your reserves all the time. You need to be pouring from, your excess, and
Mhm.
really looking at that. And maybe that is stepping back from things that don't light you up, that don't make you happy, but you feel obligated to do. And just, I always say, put everything on the table and look at it all honestly, and what you actually need to be doing, where you actually want to be spending your time, and what can fall away, what can be hired out, what can be delegated out, so that you can put yourself first. And it's really cool when you honestly take a look at that and see what comes up. So,
Yeah. What sparks joy?
mhm.
If you're still doing things just out of rote, just because you've been doing them for, 5, 10, 20 years,
Mhm.
do you need to be doing them still?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
do they bring you some kind of joy? And if they don't, get them out of there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's the really neat thing about looking at your bio and your accomplishments. It's clear that you've been following your joy for many years in all of these different areas. And so I would love to talk a little bit about kind of start going through your certifications, your degrees, and kind of just what led you to this point at this time with your health and soul centered business.
Okay. Well, actually, it started out from health crisis. So,
Mm-hmm.
I was, I've always been active, cheerleading and track, and, I got to college, and um, I was in, a military program. And then something happened, and a little bit of, switching on of different genetics, and ended up with Hashimoto's thyroiditis.
Mm-hmm.
So here I am now with an autoimmune condition and no more scholarship to school,
Mm.
um, changing schools, having to give up my apartment, moving back home, starting at a different college, and going, oh my god, they don't have my major. What do I do?
Mm-hmm.
Starting a different, so all of these crazy things just happening all at once, um, and my health suffered, and
Yeah.
it suffered for many years, um, and it just kind of compounded and had all of these other conditions, um, coming on top of it because of all of this stress from all of these different things.
Yeah.
And, I've always been interested in health and nutrition and plant based nutrition. And so it just kind of circled around that I got a certificate in plant based nutrition and then a certificate in health coaching. And, I started to dive into functional medicine
Mm-hmm.
for a while. But it just all came back around. I'm like, if I can help one person not go through the things that I went through because
Yeah.
of stress, and that, stress turning into symptoms,
Mm-hmm.
then it's totally worth it, because I don't want anybody to have to do that.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's, and we go through these difficult things. In my world, it's to then use it to help other people to hopefully not have to go through the same tragedy or traumas or health crises in order to gain the same information. And that's what I was talking to these ladies about last night, was our bodies will talk to us if we don't
Mhm.
address what we need to address. And it will, if you're putting yourself last, it's going to force you to pay attention. And I've had that happen many times throughout my life. And, just when I think I have it, things figured out, something else will happen. But I do think that we can learn from other people and other people's, issues that they've had so that maybe we can do better and not have to go through those things. I was like, please listen to me and don't take, don't need it to take a tragedy followed up by a Lyme's diagnosis for
Right.
you to prioritize yourself, to actually feel your feelings and process those. And because I think you are on that same page where, Hashimoto's, other autoimmune, is so much about trauma. It's so
Mhm.
much about eating well, sleeping well, taking care of ourselves on every level.
Exactly.
And I have been on the cusp of the autoimmune things, and I've kind of been in that world learning about it so that I don't go into full blown diagnoses. Um, and yeah, it takes a very integrative approach to deal with chronic conditions, whether they're
Mhm.
autoimmune or chronic pain or, whatever they may be. And nutrition is vital. Um, Mental and emotional regulation is vital. So I love that you went into each of those layers to just fully help yourself first and foremost, and then move on to helping others.
Yeah, and I mean, don't forget the spiritual too.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you need to know yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You really do. I think in 2020, that was probably the time that people really started to know themselves, or to
Mm-hmm.
have that bit of space
Yes.
where they could think, where they could breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think that we saw a lot more people, kind of coming out of the woodwork saying, "Hey, can you help?" Whether it was, you know, um, in, just regular health coaching, or, you know, spiritual coaching,
Mm-hmm.
or looking at different spiritual avenues to really get in touch with themselves.
Yeah. And, I kind of saw two sides of that where people did have more time and space to become aware of what was bothering them, and then other people that were so burnt out from being the, first responders or front line, or,
Mhm.
and just like, yeah, this does not work at all. What do I need to do so that I can turn around this burnout that
Right.
is happening? And because that was when I was still at the hospital, and working with nurses and doctors and respiratory therapists and all of those people that keep a hospital running, that were so exhausted from the pandemic and everything. So yeah, you're exactly right. 2020 was definitely a turning point for many reasons, into people examining what is working and what
Mhm.
is not, and how do I truly want to be living my life, and what are my priorities. And that's so important. So I would love to go into the spiritual aspects that you've incorporated with the Reiki, the shamanism, and the Kundalini yoga. So, yeah, I'd love to hear about those.
All right. Well, those started because I live them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think a lot of people on this path will probably tell you that they've done it their whole lives and didn't realize it until, somebody at one point in time gave it a name. And then they're like, oh, I've been doing this forever. I thought that everybody did it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's kind of, where I am with it. That it's just so a part of me that I wouldn't see how to help people any other way than to incorporate these things. So it was just a natural progression. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
energy healing. So, you get these blocks in your system, and when there's a block, that's where you're going to find illness or disease. So, work to get the block out.
Mm-hmm.
That I do that with Reiki, with shamanic healing. it's all kinds of physical, emotional, and spiritual healing. It's not just like one or the other. It's
Mm-hmm.
everything together. And
Absolutely.
then Akashic records. I mean, who doesn't want to know all of the wisdom from all of their lives, from all where their soul has been
Yeah.
throughout time and dimensions and places? I mean, if you can bring that into your life now, I mean, how fantastic is that?
Yeah, and so let's talk a little bit about the Akashic Records because I think that's something that I haven't touched on yet in anybody else that I've talked to. So I know I take people to the Akashic Records to access their information. So this is a cool thing that happened. I don't know if you've done this yet, but I have some clients that are galactic. And so they actually have accessed their Akashic records for their galactic lifetimes and then also their human lifetimes. And I was like, oh
Oh,
my
I
gosh,
love it.
I never even considered that that was a thing. But of course, like, it doesn't matter if we're in this dimension or another, but that's like pretty out there. We're already out here with the Reiki and the shamanistic, and now I'm bringing in galactic. But so yeah, so let's talk about the Akashic records.
Mhm.
And you started explaining that it is our basically all of our lifetimes and all of the experiences that we have had. So, obviously, people that are following me know that I believe in past lives or parallel lives, whatever you want to call them, and that it's one journey of, or it's many journeys of our one soul. And so, what you're talking about is accessing that information to um, tell me about what your purpose is whenever you do that. Is it clarity, insight? Is it healing? Like, tell me about whenever you give your readings, what that looks like and how it benefits people.
Well, it's really all of the above. Um, so at events, I do just a quick 20-minute reading. So give me like one or two questions. And I always ask people, to start them with the words either what or how.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then what I want people to understand whenever I'm doing it, um, it's not like a psychic reading. It's not going to be like a tarot reading. You're not
Mm-hmm.
going to hear things like "you should do,"
Mm-hmm.
or it's not going to come through like the way that we're talking right now. It's not going
Yes.
to be like if you're reading a how-to book. It's
Yes.
not going to be like that, because it's at the level of soul. Soul speaks in images, in symbols, and in metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
So I might give you a story, um, and you'll be like, what on earth does this story have to do with me? But you figure it out. You might figure it out,
Mm-hmm.
that day or a week from then or a few months from then.
Yeah.
But you figure it out, and you can also work with the symbols that show up in the story. And um, what was I going to say? No, it'll come back around.
Yeah, it will come back around.
Come back around.
Absolutely. It always does.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, I love that you're bringing in the soul speaks to us in a different way
right.
because that comes up a lot in my sessions, whether we're going into a past life or when we go into that in between times,
Mhm.
in between death and birth, where we're at source. Oftentimes it is just an image or it is one or two words when we're talking about purpose. The lady that I saw yesterday for a past life session, her purpose was love. Okay, yeah, that's fair. That's valid. How do you love in the midst of a human life and all of the things that happen over time? And so I love that you're calling it, that the soul speaks in simplicity, in images, in metaphor, because yeah, it is a different language. Yeah.
Right. I was doing this one session, um, and I'm thinking, wow, this is an amazing session because this woman was getting all kinds of healing. Like, um, a bear spirit came in. He was,
Mm.
dancing around a fire, and in the fire, you could see this snake. So, I mean, here are like three really amazing symbols that you could work with. And, I'm telling her, well, he's doing a healing for you. He's answering your question, to give you clarity for the question that you asked. And she's like, yeah, I don't get it at all.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm going to write it. And I write things down for people too.
Mm-hmm.
I write them down so that they can take them home. And,
Yes.
they can read through it later. They can like look to see what the symbols are. They can start to circle things, see what makes sense for them. The only time that it comes through where it's not so much in metaphor is if I'm working with someone's business, Akashic Records, then it's really much more defined and much clearer.
Oh,
Then it's
that's
different.
interesting. Yeah, maybe I need to do a session with you about my business. This is like my, biggest, I'm definitely at these like pivot points in my business. So,
Mhm.
I'm doing like all the things. I just had a mediumship reading earlier this week. I had my gene keys done this week. And yeah, but I actually, when I did the gene keys, I was like, well, I focus way too much on business. So maybe we need to just see where this reading goes instead of me being my intention. But yeah, that's the thing too. This is a different world that we live in where we do, you and I live in a world
Mhm.
where we do look for the signs and the symbols and the synchronicities and, an image of a bear and fire and snake
Right.
means something to us. And it's going to mean something different to me than it means to you, than it means to the client who is there with us.
Mhm.
But my goodness, that is layer upon layer upon layer of information just in those three things.
Right.
And so funny that you're bringing up snakes today because that was another thing that we were talking about last night. There was a lady there who said it's just like snake after snake after snake showing up for her. So we were talking about what that could mean for her. And then the two other ladies that were there were like, "Oh my gosh, we were just talking about rattlesnakes at camp." And then I was like, "Oh my gosh, I had a dream about three snakes the other night." And so it's just so funny that
And oh my God.
you brought up that story of snakes today.
And last week, my dogs and I were out in the woods, and here's a little snake sunning
Yeah.
itself, and I'm like, "Hey, let me get a picture of you."
Yes,
It just
yes.
turned and looked at me. I'm like,
Yeah,
"Thank you."
and of course it's the time of year where we are that snakes are coming out of hibernation and
Mhm.
things too, but for, those are the things that I look for is like, okay, so I had a dream about snakes. They were talking about snakes before they knew, like, nobody else had brought it up, and then she's talking about her experience with all of these snakes. So okay, like what is the message that
Mhm.
snake is trying to bring us right now? What do we need to look at? And for me, my dream was that there were two snakes on the ground that I was very focused on. And then I missed the snake that was on the bench with me. And that's the one that ended up biting me. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much symbolism in that one. Yeah. So we could
Wow.
probably do a whole session just
We
on that
could.
dream alone. Yeah. So that's the really cool thing is when you can pause and be open to different possibility, to spirit, source, our souls talking to us in that way through symbols, through animals, then we can just embrace that magic, live in that more mystical, spiritual, open place.
Mhm.
And so I love that you're bringing that possibility to people.
Yeah. I think that, it's a little bit different to have, feet in both worlds,
Mm-hmm.
and to make a nice balance between that, so that you can function in the physical world that you live in,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
also, keep that beautiful connection to the spiritual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's something that I'm very passionate about helping people understand that it's not about being all in one or all in the other. It is that balance between the two. Like I have a very heart based, spirit based business, but I still have to do marketing. I
Right.
still have to send out emails. I still have to pay my
Pay
bills,
the bill.
So, like, we have to embrace the human side of our business
Mhm.
and look at it as an actual business. But we can bring in that divine guidance, that inspired action, instead of it just being, a whirlwind of chaos, fear, doubt, just all of those things that are so human based. And so, yeah, what do you think about that?
Well, I do think, you know, fear is such it's such an encompassing
Mhm.
emotion. I mean, so much goes into fear, and it can be so based in trauma, not just from this lifetime, but from other lifetimes, from ancestral, um, you know, different things that happened there. Um,
Mhm.
but fear is it's so interesting, and it's such a large topic.
Yes.
But I mean, I think that there comes a time, and I don't know if it has to do with age, or just getting back the wisdom that you had when you were like 3 years old.
Mhm.
When you were just like going in the world and nothing could stop you. I don't know if it's getting back to that, or if it's just age, or whatever it is, but it's like, I don't know. I think I've turned a corner with fear, because fear would always hold me
Mhm.
back. I mean, everything.
Yeah.
But now it's like it's something different, a different switch flipped or something.
Yeah.
But now I'm more like, what is really the worst that could happen in any circumstance
100%.
ever?
Yeah, I know. And for me, that's one of the things that I'm including in the book, where I call it the death of self, where these old stories, these old patterns fall away, whether they are generational, whether they're past life, whether they're from this life. And so one of the big ones after Bodhi died was like, oh, I'm just going for it in every area that I feel called to. And that's a big piece of it,
Hmm.
letting go of fear of judgment, letting go of fear of being my true self. I've always had this innate worry of bothering people. Well, guess what?
Hmm.
If you're running a business and needing clients, then you've got to bother, quote unquote, bother people with your message.
Hmm.
Um, and, there's just all of those patterns that just completely fell away when Bodhi died, because it was like, oh, the worst has happened. I
Hmm.
survived it. And now what does that mean for my life moving forward? How do I help myself? How do I help others even more? And yeah, so again, I don't know if it's tragedy or age or
Right.
what it was, but yeah, every bit of fear, not that it's completely gone, but it just does not show up in the same way.
Right.
And it's just so interesting to look at, because obviously a lot of the people that are coming to see me, the people that come to see you, are still feeling uncertain about themselves, are still feeling uncertain about the world. They don't have that deep belief in themselves. They still have those hurts and traumas that affect them every day. And so, that's the other thing that I've got to witness is that transformation for other people. So it's one thing for me to go through it, but then to actually help other people let go of fear. And man, is that powerful, because fear is so low vibe. It just
Right.
sucks the life out of everything. And we've definitely been country wise, world wise, in a lot of fear for a lot of years. But now I'm seeing the shift
Hmm.
into, yeah, nope, I'm not embracing that message anymore. I'm letting that fear go. And it's really amazing to see people stepping into who they truly want to be in their life and in their careers, and, just wherever that takes them.
I mean, no emotion is either good or bad.
Yeah.
I mean, fear serves a purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and most emotions do, and most of the time it's protection. Um, but you don't want that fear running in the background so often or so
Correct.
loudly.
Mm-hmm.
You want to
Yes.
quiet it down, and let it go take a break for a while.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's what I always say too. Like anger, people are afraid of anger. They're afraid of rage. And I'm like, but it's just showing you something. So let's sit with that anger. Let's sit with that rage and see what it is that is causing it and what do we actually need to do about it. So, yeah, absolutely. It just can't, it has to be in that balance state. It can't be all anger, all fear,
Right.
because that would be terrible, And so, yeah, looking at how do we shift into that place of peace and of understanding of the world, and most of all of ourselves.
Yeah, I always tell people find calm in the chaos. Everything
Yes.
around you can be like going around like this whirlwind. It's fine. You're yourself,
Yeah.
your own little calm inner sanctuary, your place
Hmm.
of serenity. You can be calm when, all of the crap is just flying right around you.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
that's a choice.
Yeah, I love that. You can be calm even when the crap is flying all around you.
Yeah.
A hundred
Yep.
percent. I love it.
Yep. It's a beautiful visual.
Yes, I love it. I love it. So so everybody can find all the ways to follow you in the bio, in the information under the podcast. And you had two free gifts that you wanted
Yes.
to mention. So tell me about those.
Yes. What I guess actually I have three.
Oh,
I didn't
perfect.
think of it until now. So if you go to my website at coachcathealth.com, if you go to the services page, you will find where you can download a free PDF journal to help you decrease your stress and get all of those worries and anxieties out onto paper so that you are freeing yourself up to find that calm, that inner sanctuary. So that's number one,
Excellent.
that journal. Second, if you go to my website and you go, I guess it's also on my shop page, scroll down and you will find a link for the Aura app. I also do content for Aura. So if you click on that, you get 30 free days to the premium of Aura. And so that's number two. And the third one, if you would like to set up any soul centered coaching sessions with me, I'm offering very limited amounts and for a very limited time, 3 free sessions with me. And just in full disclosure, I am finishing up my advanced certification in soul centered coaching, and I need a few more practicum hours. So that's what you would be
Awesome.
helping me do.
Wonderful. I may take you up on that one.
Hey, all you
Yeah.
have to do is say, hey, remember those hours?
Yes, awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your heart today, your soul today, your wisdom today. Obviously, I could talk to you for like an hour on each of those, integrative medicine, an hour on plant-based nutrition,
Yes,
an hour on Reiki, an hour on shamanism.
we'll,
So,
we'll, get to, we'll get together sometime and go for a run, and we'll
yes.
just talk about all this
Yes,
stuff.
that sounds amazing. And so, thank you for being here today. Thank you all for watching and listening. And if you want to meet Bronwyn in person, she will be at the Expo on June 24th in Punxsutawney. You can reach out to her online, and so she can do virtual sessions for those of you that are across the country and across the world. And yeah, I think that's it. Is there anything else that you want to share or say today before we close out?
No, that's it. Thank you so much for having
Awesome.
me on, and I can't wait for the expo.
I know. I am getting so excited and I can't wait to see you there. And you have a good rest of your day and have a good day to everybody out there as well. Thank you.
Bye.